Are you ready for the best damn sports radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. Where I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know, they ain't no more legit sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut you short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is up, everybody? Michael Buckheischer here with the Man Hour. Head over to manhourradio.com. Check out the merchandise page, the members only tab, and of course the new and improved blog section as well. Our man Tori Anderson dropped a blog there just the other day about some GOAT status. So if you are interested in learning about Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, the true GOATs of the sport, you're right, Combs. I did say Michael Jordan, true sports there, but head over there and check it out. So let's go ahead and welcome the man, the myth, the legend himself, Brandon Combs. What's up, Brandon?
Man Hour Nation, what is going on? Buck, did I hear you right, bro?
Yeah.
One more time.
Sometimes when I start to like stutter, like I catch myself and I say like the wrong thing, and that's what happened.
No,
Michael
you said
Jordan
the right
accidentally
thing.
Came out of my mouth.
No, it didn't accidentally. You said the right thing. Wyatt's not here, so you're just trying to, get in there and be like, hey, you know what? It's just me and Combs, so let me suck up a little bit.
Yeah,
I got you.
I'm so scared of you.
I mean, I would be.
Yeah. I am afraid of a 5'4" ginger. I mean, shit.
First of all, 5'8.5".
Okay. With your 3-inch heel inserts, right?
No.
I saw. So we're on TikTok a lot. Like, we share TikTok videos back and forth. And I saw an ad for like there's literally these heels that you slide into your shoe and it makes you 3 inches taller.
That's actually genius.
That's the ultimate catfish there. Like,
but see, I don't need to do that because Michelle is only 5'1".
Right.
So if I grew another 3, I couldn't do that to her.
So I am 6'2", and Cindy is. She says she's 5'11 and a half. She's freaking 6 foot. Like, let's just be flat out honest. She is 6 foot tall, and she wanted to wear heels for our wedding and stuff. I'm like, first of all, there is no way I am looking up to you when I say I like I do. So we wore Chucks, and
that was your ego coming in, huh?
Oh, dude, 100%. I mean, let's be honest. A man is supposed to be taller than like a woman, right? Like it's supposed to exert dominance or whatever you want to call it. What's going on, Drew? But like, I could never date like a 6'5" woman ever.
Yeah, it's hard to date a woman who is taller than you. But I'm trying to think if I've ever dated them. As Drew says, Tom Cruise used them on every movie set.
Because he's like 5'6", like he's freaking tiny.
Yeah,
apparently too.
He's really short too. I don't know if I've ever dated a girl that was taller than me.
Yeah,
I may have slept with a few, but I don't know if I ever dated her.
I dated one that like kind of looked eye to eye to me, and that relationship lasted for the whole like 3 days. I'm like, this isn't gonna work. Like I need to be able to I don't know.
You need to assert your dominance, right? You need to look down and
I don't know if it's like
you are so sexist.
A guy wouldn't say it is a dominant thing. It's just like it's like that's just the way it's supposed to be. I guess maybe I don't know like the proper word for it. It just I don't know. It just felt unnatural. Like I guess
Yeah.
And we were wearing the same. We were wearing the same size shoe and the same jacket. I'm like, this is freaking weird.
Yeah. We've all got our preferences. We've all got, some people like taller women. Some people like shorter women. Some people, blonde, redhead, whatever the case is. Whatever floats your boat, go for it.
But there are a few things in this world, Combs, that I strongly despise 100%. And I think you are on the same boat as me. is when people boast and film themselves doing good deeds. We were scrolling Facebook earlier, and this guy, like he is not a friend of ours. Like he's just some random dude, you know. And people were sharing it and stuff like that. But he gave a homeless guy like 4 or 5 cheeseburgers, and he was like, "Look at me, right." And it's just like he need like to pat himself like on the back, and it's so,
you know,
talk about egotistical.
I see those videos from time to time, and I see, you know, them doing good, and I just wonder, you know, and I hope that they're doing it to bring attention to the cause.
Right.
But sometimes I wonder if they're doing it when the camera's off. Like, is this something you're doing out of the kindness of your heart, or is this something you're doing to try to go viral?
Viral 100%. Otherwise, you wouldn't be posting it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are plenty of times where I'm in my car and I see a guy on the side of the road with a sign walking back and forth between the cars, or coming out of a grocery store. And, you know, if I have a couple bucks on me, I'll hand it to him, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not like I've never felt the need to say, hey, let me videotape myself. Hey, guy, it's happened before where, you know, it just happened. I was coming out of a grocery store and there's a restaurant right next to it. I believe it was a Subway. And I took the guy in and I told him, hey, grab whatever you want. And he grabbed whatever he wanted. And he put, but at no point was I like, damn, I should put this on Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just do things out of the kindness of your heart. Sometimes you just want to do good in the world, especially in today, the way the world is today, man.
Right.
And we'll get into some of that later. But we just need more goodness. And when I say that, we need more goodness without an agenda behind it.
Yeah,
and that's what you have if you're recording it.
Yeah, and like every time people record that, like you always see those Karens in there. Like, let's say that, right? Like, hey, like, why didn't you give them more or something? You know, it's always something negative, and it's never positive whatsoever. So it's just like as soon as I saw that video, like it almost upset me, like that person was giving him food, like it basically, like it put him up on this pedestal, like I am better than like you are because I got a cell phone, like I'm recording it and I'm giving you food, like that, like that's kind of how it came off to tag me as.
And then the other ones, like, I don't know, have you ever seen the ones where they record them and they give them money and then they record to see like what they do with the money? To see what the homeless will do with the money, and then afterwards they'll go and give them more or something like that. Like those ones I'm okay with because I think those are really putting, awareness to a cause. But just doing it just to do it is just, I mean, you're just trying to cause attention for yourself. And
you brought up a statement here, like, you know, like if you see a person walking from place to place, like holding us like a sign, like you'll give them like a few bucks. Right. I've actually been kind of jaded like from that, just because there was a undercover story based out of Detroit, I think it was. Yeah, and this girl, and this girl pretended to be homeless, and she was driving like a brand new Mercedes or something like that, and
it's actually she was making rampant, to be honest with you. Like there are. Sometimes you see them, I feel like you see them and you would know. Like, there are people I see on the side of and you're wearing clean jeans, your hair looks like it just got cut, you're doing, you know what I mean? Like, those guys, I'm just like, yeah, probably not. But I feel like sometimes you can tell the difference.
Right.
And I hate to stereotype like that because, look, if your life is to the point where you have to go out there and panhandle, then something's up. You know, whether it's a mental issue, whether it's something that you do, or hell, maybe it's your job. You know, maybe you decided, hey, this is how I'm going to make money and this is your full-time job. Who am I to say, hey, that's, you know, not to do that. But, you know, look, there's good people in the world, there's bad people in the world, and it's hard to determine on the fly whether or not a person is good or bad.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I tend to just feel, you know, I'm a big pay it forward type of guy. Like if I'm in, you know, a line at Dunkin' Donuts or something in the morning grabbing a coffee and the person behind me, sometimes I'll just pay for the coffee behind me. you know,
Yeah.
and I don't ever expect it to happen, and it's happened to me too, like where I've gotten there, they're like, no, it's the person ahead of you paid, and then I'll hand them my money and say, here, pay for the guy behind me, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it's just one of those things where I like to, I like to pay it forward. Look, I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but any little bit of good that I can do, I'm very happy to do for people.
Yeah, I've done that a time or two as well, but I will never do it in the drive-through just because, like, in the back of my head, because I think I'm the type of person that expects the worst out of people. So I'm like, is this guy really going to give the money to like the next person? You know, like So like if I'm inside, like I'll do that.
They usually will. When you're at a drive-through, the workers usually will. And it's one of those things where, you know, even if the person behind me looks like they're just in a bitchy mood, maybe they honked at you or something, even then, like, that almost drives me to do it more.
Right.
To be like, hey, thank you for being such a jerk this morning. Sorry you're having such a rough morning. Here, I'm going to pay for your coffee to make you feel like even lower than what you already are. And that goes for, you know, I've said this before on the show, you don't know what people are going through. You don't know the things that are going on in their head. You don't know what the struggles that they're dealing with. If somebody is a jerk to you, maybe they've got something going on. Maybe they're just an asshole. But at the same time,
I am. No, I'm just kidding.
maybe they just got something going on that day. You know, maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they're having trouble, you know, in a custody battle or something. Maybe there's something going on that is causing them to act like that. So I just kind of, you know, I go out there and do what I can. Speaking of charity, Mike LeBlanc chimes in and says, put a damn hat on, Buck. The light is flaring off your head. And I'm just joking when I say speaking of charity. LeBlanc, in all seriousness, man, we hope that you guys are okay out there in Texas. I know you guys have been dealing with a lot of flooding and a lot of damage. So
let me ask you a
we
question,
really hope
Combs.
that you guys are doing good out there in Texas.
Let me ask you a question. Like you've been in that line of work for what you own your business for 16 years, right?
Yeah.
It's like 80 degrees down there in Texas. Why are pipes still breaking? Is it because
well,
it got
there's
so
lots
warm
of
so
reasons.
quick, or what?
Yeah, sometimes it's because it gets so warm so quick. Sometimes the pipes don't get purged properly, and then, you know, water just has nowhere else to go, and it's backed up, and they burst. You know, a lot of it is there was already a crack in the pipe, but it just hadn't broken yet, and now that the water's thawed out, now it's breaking.
Okay.
There are all sorts of things that could cause it. But, you know, as LeBlanc says, 5 times in 4 days. Like, that's crazy, man. Like,
You should probably go buy a lottery ticket. I mean, like, let's be honest, if you're getting those type of odds, man. Like, I'm a type of person that always tries to make light of a situation, but Mikey, damn, that sucks,
yeah, man. If you and Leah need anything, man, just reach out. We'll do what we can, for sure.
Combs will drive down to Louisville, pick me up, and we'll be there in like 28 hours or something like that. However long that drive is. But Combs, we do have some pretty exciting interview coming up here right after the break. Can you tell the people a little bit about the interview before we go to a break and start the interview?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to interview Bob Bacozzi the other day. He couldn't come on live, couldn't commit to the time, but I was able to interview him during the day. And, man, what a great guy, man. For those of you who don't know who Bob Bacozzi is, he is a retired ESPN play-by-play guy. He did a lot of time with UConn basketball, college basketball, that type of stuff. I spent about 35 minutes on the interview and then about another 45 minutes to an hour after the interview talking to this guy. And he is just he's a ton of fun, has a ton of stories, especially off-the-record stories. So he was a really great guy. So I'm definitely I'm excited for you guys to hear this.
Yeah, so guys, we are going to take a quick little break, and then after the break, we are going to play that interview. So stay tuned right here on the Man Hour, as we'll be right back.
All right, Man Hour Nation, welcome back to the show. I am very honored right now to be able to have a guest on with me at this time. Retired play-by-play man, 40-plus years in the business. If you ask me, he's one of the best to ever do it. His name is Bob Picozzi. Bob, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Brandon. It's snowing here today, but I've lived in New England since 1973, so I'm almost getting used to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm here in Chicago, and I spent like 15 years up in Vermont, so I know all about cold and snow and all that other good stuff. One of the big reasons why I can't wait to hopefully move southeast at some point in my life.
So you decided to escape the snow and move to tropical Chicago. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Chicago and then went to Marine Corps, and after the Marine Corps, I spent about 15 years up in Vermont. So. I've always been a cold weather guy, unfortunately, because I really do hate the snow, even though I've never moved out of it. But it's definitely not for me. I'm a warm weather guy. I'm a baseball guy, so I like the summer, Bob.
Yeah, so do I.
All right. So, how's retirement treating you? Do you miss calling games?
Well, yeah, I do. I'll always miss calling games, and you find. And I'm sure. All retired play-by-play guys go through the same thing. You watch a game and you imagine what you would say at this moment, particularly, late in a basketball game where it's close and there are a lot of timeouts. You wonder what you would say. And so I will always miss calling games. But I also enjoy retirement very much. I love the idea that when I get up in the morning, I don't have to be somewhere.
Right.
And there are times where I will go for days and days without getting in the car going anywhere, especially, in the last year during the pandemic. I've only been out of the state of Connecticut once since the pandemic started. But I enjoy retirement very much. I enjoyed my career, and I'm also enjoying my retirement very much.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Us guys here at the Man Hour, myself, Buckheister, and Wyatt, we all are doing this full time and trying to make something of it. But all three of us also have full-time jobs, and Wyatt also goes to school. He still hasn't graduated high school yet. So we know all about can't wait until we're in your shoes where we can just stay home and not have to worry about anything. But, we're a long ways away from that anyway. So let me ask, let's go into calling games. It's something that has always been a dream of mine. Like I really want to get into calling baseball. And I know Wyatt, he works a lot with the Indiana High School Association, and he calls a lot of their games. He just called the state championship games down in southern Indiana. So we're really interested in the life of being a broadcaster itself. What is it like to become a broadcaster, for one, like the journey to it, and then how do you really get into being, calling it on the highest levels?
Well, it helps if that's what you always wanted to do, and it's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but then when I realized that was not going to happen, then I decided to shift gears. And then I decided I want to become a play-by-play announcer. And I was 10 years old when I made that decision. And I never outgrew the dream. And everything that I did after that was with the idea of chasing that dream. Probably the most important decision I made was the decision to attend Seton Hall University because of the reputation of its campus radio station, WSOU. So I went there and was heavily involved in the radio station for 4 years. I got a chance to call 60 games while I was a student. So I had a lot of practical on-air experience, albeit at the college level by the time I graduated. And then it's just a case of working your way up. I didn't do any play-by-play in my first job out of college, but that was only 3.5 months long. And then I got a better job. And then I started doing high school basketball and high school football play-by-play. And then my third job, I did Yale basketball and then Fairfield University basketball. And then I kind of made a sideways step and became a local TV sports anchor for 19 years. And I had very few play-by-play opportunities during those 19 years. It was definitely a good career move at that point. But by the time I left there, the play-by-play opportunities had increased so much, especially on TV. And then that's when I started working for ESPN and started doing games for them. And also other, I did some games for Fox. I did the UConn women's basketball local TV package. And so, I love doing it. And it's, I guess to answer your question, the more games you do, the more opportunity people who hire have to hear you, and hopefully they like what they hear. And just like anything else with repetition, you ought to get better. If you don't, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think one of my great regrets is that I didn't keep track of how many games I did. I'm sure it was over 1,000, but I wish I knew the exact number. But I love them all. And whenever I watch a game, particularly college basketball, since the overwhelming majority of games I did were college basketball, it always reminds me of games I did in that arena. Oh, I remember when I did this and they played and that kind of thing. And I have a pretty good memory, and all of those memories are very warm ones.
Yeah. So that is what Wyatt is on the trajectory of. So Wyatt started out, really early. His sophomore year of high school, starts calling games, and he knows that that's what he wants to do. Me, on the other hand, I've just always been a sports junkie. And, after high school, I went into the Marine Corps. And then after that, I became a carpenter. And I always had this, this little dream of wanting to just do sports all the time, talk sports like I am now. But, I'm going to be 40 next month, Bob. So I'm a little late to the game. I've got some, a whole lot of growing to do. This man-hour gig has been absolutely phenomenal. We are doing great things with it. But in order to get there and call games at the highest level, you probably really do have to start early, don't you?
Well, it helps. But again, I made the so I told you I was in local TV for 19 years. Yep. And then I left local TV because they didn't renew my contract. So they kind of they forced my hand. It was really the first and fortunately only time my career was ever at a crossroads. And I was 46 years old, and I had a lot of radio play-by-play experience. I had done, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 games on TV during those 19 years at the local TV level. But, I was taking a gamble at that point. I decided I didn't want to continue doing that.
Right.
Didn't want to continue being a local TV sports anchor. And I wanted to get back to my first love, which was play-by-play. So I picked the brains of at least 50 people to ask them whether they thought that was a realistic goal, given my age. And the feeling was unanimous. I've known Bill Raftery forever. Bill was hired as the coach at Seton Hall when I was a junior, and I did the games for the student radio station. So I've known him since then and have stayed in touch with him since then. And so I remember out of all the advice I got, his probably resonated the most. And he said, with your experience and your talent and your contacts, and all three of those are equally important, said you absolutely can do it. And he said, you'll probably find that it'll take a while to grow. But the more people who hear your work, the more people will want to hire you. And that's exactly the way it worked out. So again, I made that jump. It's not that I didn't have any play-by-play experience, but I was 46 years old when I made that jump into doing TV play-by-play. In hindsight, I wish I did it much earlier, because I think I would have had a chance to, first of all, I would have had a chance to enjoy so many more years of doing play-by-play. And I probably, there's no doubt in my mind, I would have a chance to ascend a little bit higher on the ladder. The best way to start is to do it at the local high school level, and to understand that you're not going to make much money. Right. And then you just listen to your tapes. And also it's a good idea to ask someone to critique your tapes. Mm-hmm. And when I was a senior in college, you're bemoaning the fact you're about to turn 40. I'm amused. On June 4th, I'll turn 70. And I'm a Jersey guy. So if you're my age and you wanted to become a play-by-play announcer, and you're from New Jersey or New York or Connecticut, there's a real good chance your hero, your idol, was Marv Albert. And he was mine. I was always a Rangers fan. I was never a Knicks fan, but I used to listen to Marv all the time when he was only on radio. And my college roommate senior year said, why don't you send Marv a tape and see if he'll critique it? I said, what, are you out of your mind? Why would he do that? He says, what do you have to lose? The cost of a stamp, and and you don't get your tape back. So I did it, and about 10 days later, the tape came back in the mail with a handwritten note that said, I listened to your tape. If you want me to go over it with you, call me at this number at such and such a time. And I did, and he spent about 20 minutes on the phone with me, and it was great.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember to this day some of the things he told me. And so as you can imagine, if he did that for me, he had no idea who I was, he must have done it for everyone. Right. So I decided at that point, if ever anyone thinks that I have anything to say that might be of some value to them, I will always do it. And that's been my mantra ever since then. And people all the time, they're asking me if I'll watch or listen to their tapes. And I do. And I give them some critique. And they, from doing it for all these years, you get pretty good at recognizing things and, where they can prove this is good, this is not so good, and that kind of thing. But the only way you get better is to listen to your tapes and to hear what you're doing and to hear things. Probably the greatest mistake you make is you tend to be repetitious, saying the same thing over and over again, whereas you could use a different word or words to describe the same thing and not be so repetitive. But the only way you're going to find that out is by watching and listening to your work.
That's great information. And for me, that's very, very encouraging to hear, because I really thought that I was starting late in the game, but to hear that, there's still a shot to do things at a high level, it's very encouraging.
Well, let me just point this out, Brandon, and you being in Chicago now, you'll appreciate this. One of the people who reached out to me to ask them to watch their tape, and in this case, it was listen to the tape. It was a radio, and it was when he was in college, and then he sent me another one when he was out in the business after a year or two, and he was grateful for the advice I gave him. It was a guy named Jason Benetti.
Okay. Yeah.
He was a senior at Syracuse, and it's funny what a small world it is. I referenced my college roommate, John Hugelmeyers from Towson, Maryland, and John's nephew was a student at Syracuse and was a very good friend of Jason. And one time over a long weekend, or maybe it was spring break, Jason came to Maryland to visit Scott, John's nephew. And John met him, and he asked him what he's studying. When he found out what he was studying, he says, well, who you ought to talk to? You ought to talk to my college roommate, so-and-so. So Jason did, and I listened to it. And then a couple of years later, I'm doing the Big East women's basketball tournament, the semifinals at the Hartford Civic Center, and DePaul is playing UConn in one of the games. And I'm at the morning shoot-around for DePaul, and after the shoot-around, you meet with the coaches, and I've known Doug Bruno forever, and Doug said, Bob, do you mind if our radio play-by-play guy sits in on this conversation? And I said, no, not at all. And he says, Bob, this is Jason Benetti. And I didn't even know that Jason was doing the games. So, and then Jason and I wound up working on the same team at ESPN. So, I'm always willing to do that. And I strongly recommend people who are just starting out in the business that they try to do the same thing, that they get someone in the business to listen to their work and offer a critique.
That's great. And, Jason Benetti is a fine play-by-play guy for the Chicago White Sox. I am a Chicago Cubs fan, and they actually just took a guy from our play-by-play booth, which is Len Casper, over to their side to do radio, and he's leaving TV to do radio. And a lot of the Cubs fans were upset. Obviously, he's going to the South Side. We love listening to Len Casper call games. But his preference has always been radio. Like, he's always wanted to do radio, and he felt like this was the perfect time, the perfect opportunity for him to jump over to the radio side and be able to call games. What for you, what is the difference, or is there a preference between TV and radio, and what would you prefer to do?
Well, I did a ton of radio at the beginning of my career, and then I did all TV in the last 20 years, with one exception. I did one game for ESPN Radio, and I was terrible because I hadn't done a radio game in years, and I knew the transition would be tough, and it was 10 times tougher than I thought it would be. There's no question it requires much more ability and skill to do it on radio. It's not even close. When you're making the transition from radio to TV, the first thing, most important thing you have to learn to do is to cut down on what you say, by tenfold, because you would drive people crazy if you talked as much in doing a game on TV as you did on radio. But the transition going from TV to radio, you have to remember that you have to keep talking. So this was I was doing a Florida-Georgia football game, which was a really good assignment for ESPN Radio, and it's just tough to break a 20-year habit. And as they break the huddle, you have to lay out the offense, and how many wide receivers there are, and how many tight ends, and where they are, and is the center. Is the quarterback under center? Is he in the shotgun, et cetera, and just remind you. I'm sure if I had done another game, I would have been that much better. But I can understand Len feeling that way. Now, unfortunately, and it's not the least bit fair, you are compensated much greater doing games on TV than you are in radio. So it's an interesting move that Len made, but I admire him for doing that if that's his first love. And also, baseball is a great radio sport.
Yes.
Baseball is a much greater radio sport than any, because of the pace of play. Baseball is my favorite sport. I love nothing more than to sit on the beach, because being from New Jersey, I love the beach, and listening to a baseball game.
Yeah, people call me crazy because if I'm driving around and I can't watch the game on TV, and now I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm a baseball guy. Like I'll watch 1,000 games a year, and not even, that's a little bit light for me as 1,000 games a year, because I watch as much baseball as I can. But I really love listening to the games on the radio. One of my, favorite color commentators came from sports radio, which was on the Cubs side, which was Ron Santo. The way and how enthusiastic he was about the Cubs, I just love listening to it. I love listening to the game. There were times where I would turn down the TV broadcast while I'm watching it on TV and turn up the radio broadcast just so I could listen to Ron Santo, on the call. And that is it's something about when you love the game, you can actually sit there and listen to it on the radio. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I actually love the fact that you just said that, because it's one of my great loves as well.
Well, I think you have to love baseball to understand it. And I love baseball, and I'm sure you sound like you would understand it. To try to explain to someone who doesn't like baseball why you love it, they'll never understand it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So and I have Sirius in my car, and I mean that's the greatest invention since ice cream,
right?
Because you can listen to what I'll do is I'll listen to all the games. At each commercial break, I'll try another broadcast, because in addition, to enjoy listening to the game, I like to listen to all the different announcers.
Correct. Yeah, that's the same way that I am. I love watching. So I'll watch Cubs games, and sometimes I'll flip over if I'm out of market. I'll flip over to a Cubs game and flip over to the visitors broadcast just to hear what their broadcasters are like. Right. So yeah, no, it's something that I do love. One thing about baseball, and I'm curious to hear your take about it, and we've gotten into this subject a lot here lately on our show, is the steroid era, and how the Baseball Writers of Association of America are, dealing with the steroid era, like not voting anybody in this year. So I'm curious to hear your take on the steroid era, because my take is that baseball made a ton of money off of the steroid era, and when their hand got caught in the cookie jar, so to speak, they kind of threw the players under the bus, and now the players are really the ones paying the price for it. I'm curious to hear what your take is on that.
Well, I certainly understand why anyone, not the least of which are the Hall of Famers themselves,
mm-hmm.
who feel the way they do, about people who use PEDs and how it was not a level playing field. It's such a complicated issue because if you follow the career, you know, Barry Bonds, I don't believe ever tested positive, but I think you're not going to find many people who don't believe that he used PEDs. Right. Roger Clemens was in the Mitchell report, and certainly you're not going to find many people who didn't believe he used them. And Alex Rodriguez obviously did test positive, but I think if you follow the game closely, you have to understand they were great players before we think they started using. I mean, right. I don't believe Roger Clemens used until after he left Boston. Well, he's a pretty good pitcher for the Red Sox. He won 3 Cy Young Awards and an MVP award there.
Right.
But then, so that's the part that makes it difficult. You know, how do you navigate that? Were Clemens and Bonds and A-Rod Hall of Fame players, you know, before they started using PEDs? The answer could very well be yes.
Right.
And if the answer is yes, I think I would vote for them. But that's why when people ask me who's the greatest at this and that, I'm going to give you 2 different answers. One that completely disregards PEDs and one that disqualifies people because of PEDs. Right. If you ask me who the greatest left fielder was in baseball history, if you disregard the PEDs, it was Barry Bonds.
Correct.
But if you want to disqualify him because we think that he used PEDs, it would be Ted Williams. And, you know, and I would do that. I think Clemens is the greatest right-handed pitcher in baseball history if you discount the PEDs when you look at all of his accomplishments. So I don't know. I think I probably side with the Bob Costas school of thought that, you know, I'd probably vote for them, but there should be a notation on their plaque that is applicable and that is fact-based about whatever their involvement was with PEDs.
Yeah, and I'm a big. It's funny. The ball that sits over here on my shoulder is actually a Barry Bonds autographed baseball, and I'm a big fan of Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds is the greatest player to ever step on the field. You look at the numbers, you look at the things that he did throughout his career. I'm on that bandwagon that Barry Bonds is the greatest of all time. But then you look at like I was talking about Baseball Writers of America not voting for these guys. It's almost like they decide who they like because there's a overwhelming majority that believe that next year a guy like David Ortiz is going to get in, and he has a positive test on his record, but he is very well liked among the media, and Barry Bonds was not for whatever reason, you know. So I feel like, and then you look at guys like Ty Cobb who got in and their background and stuff that you hear about them, and it's almost like they're drawing a moral compass line, and you tend to wonder, you know, where does that moral compass line stop? But
well, I mean, you know, Pete Rose is in his own separate category because that has been the law of the land since the Black Sox scandal. Yeah. It is a rule, and the sign is on the clubhouse door everywhere. So he violated that rule. And not only does everyone know what the rule is, but they know what the penalty is that comes with the rule.
Agreed.
And there's a reason why since the Black Sox scandal, there's only been really one person that's been involved and linked with betting, right? And it's right because it's a deterrent, and the deterrent has worked. You know, Ty Cobb, I'm sure what you're referring to is a pretty good indication through history that Ty Cobb was a racist. Yep. Well, being a racist doesn't directly affect. Look, there's no one on earth I despise more than racists, but that doesn't affect what you did on the field. Using steroids does. So I'm not so sure I agree with you with the popularity or the unpopularity. I don't know who would be. I don't know who would be a good case. The problem with Andy Pettitte was very popular with the media and very popular with the fans. The problem is his Hall of Fame credentials are borderline anyway. Personally, I would vote for him because he's got 18 postseason wins, which is the most ever. And he played on 5 championship teams. And also he is, I'm pretty sure about this. I think there are only 2 pitchers in baseball history who finished 100 games over 500 and who are eligible for the Hall of Fame who are not yet in the Hall of Fame. And they are Roger Clemens, and we know why, and the other one's Andy Pettitte. So and Pettit hasn't received any significant support so far. I'm not suggesting that Pettit's resume is anywhere near as great as Clemens' resume, but I don't think you're going to find anyone who says, well, I'm not voting for Pettit because I don't like him, because Pettit was universally liked. And, the way he handled it, he fessed up. He said, yes, I did it. This is why I did it, to rehab from an injury. But I don't know what the answer to that is. I can certainly appreciate how the hardline Hall of Famers, and most of them are hardliners, don't want to have anything to do with people with a PED history getting into their hallowed halls.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Pete Rose, because that's one of the arguments I always get is, well, if you're going to let these guys in, then Pete Rose definitely needs to be in. Well, what changed? I used to be on that camp too. I used to be like, well, what Pete Rose did on the field, I mean, it's unquestionable. But the gambling on the game, what changed my mind was actually a conversation with one of his former teammates, and he said, look, he's never getting in, and he shouldn't be in because he gambled on the game, and it's the one rule that we all know, and he broke it. So that's kind of what changed my mind, was that view of it. And I think the steroids era is just a different topic, and it's a debate that is going to go on forever, I'm sure. But I guess we'll see. Time will tell whether or not these guys get in. I believe that they should be in. Others believe that they shouldn't be in, and ultimately, I don't get a vote. So that's the one thing that remains to be the same, is I don't get a vote, so I don't get to say who gets in. So before I let you go here, I do want to get back into your times as a play-by-play guy. I got a couple of fun questions I'd like to ask you. First and foremost, what is your favorite memory calling a game?
Well, I don't think that there's a definitive answer to that question. So I'll answer it two different ways. I had done, as I said, games on local radio at the beginning of my career. And then when I went to work for ESPN, I did games on a regional basis. Back then, the Big East Network, the games were produced by ESPN Regional Television in Charlotte, and they were just that. They were regionally televised. They would always be in the markets of the two participating teams, and they would frequently be on in other Big East markets where the team in that market didn't have a game that night. They might be on as many as 40 different TV stations, but they weren't nationally televised. And the first time that I did a game on national TV was an NCAA. I also did a lot of women's college basketball. Was an NCAA women's basketball tournament game, a second round game at the University of Texas in March of 2002. And as I was walking into the Irwin Arena in Austin that night, I was well aware of the fact that this was the first time I was going to do a game I was going to be on nationally. It doesn't change the way you prepare, nor change the way you call the game. And I never once thought about it once I was on the air, but it kind of hit me as I walked into the arena. But probably the most memorable game I called, I did the America East Men's Basketball Championship game for a number of years. And it was a Stony Brook at Albany game. And the America East is one of these leagues where they play the championship game on the home floor of the higher seed of the two finalists. And it's the atmosphere is off the charts, right? Because it's obviously a one bid league. You either win the conference championship game and go to the NCAA tournament, or you go home. There's never going to be an America East team that's going to get in that large berth in the NCAA tournament. So Albany had a player from Australia named Peter Hooley. And Peter, between the time he signed his letter of intent to go to Albany and the time he actually left for school, his mom was diagnosed with cancer. So at first he didn't want to go, but she convinced him to go. Don't worry about it. I'll be fine. I'll get the treatments. Your dad's here, your sister's here to take care of me. I'll be fine. So he went off to school. And then I think it was his senior year. I'm not 100% sure about that. His mom started, her condition took a turn for the worse. And his dad said, I think you better come see her. So he took a leave of absence and he went home, and he essentially sat vigil in her hospital room for 14 days, and then she passed away. And then he took a little more time off, and this is during the basketball season. And then he decided it's time to go back to school. And his dad and sister went with him because they felt he would need that support system. And they didn't stay very long because they saw that he had another family, the Albany basketball team and the coaches and the student body who all knew about it. And he had a tremendous support system there. So they went back home. So now fast forward, it's the conference championship game, and his team is losing by 2 points, and he hits a 3-pointer from the top of the circle with 3 seconds left to win the conference championship game and send them to the NCAA tournament. And the students stormed the floor, and someone had an Australian flag and draped it around him. And I did the game with Tim Welsh, the former Iona and Providence college coach. And Tim interviewed Peter on the floor, and he's got the Australian flag around his shoulder. And the shot wasn't clean. It was a rim rattler and went in. And he said, I think my mom, helped with a little body English there to send it in. And it was just, so it was the whole scene. I think we did a pretty good job of setting up the storyline early in the broadcast and then having to revisit the storyline when he made the game-winning shot. So for those reasons, that was memorable. It's the America East is always the first championship game that's played on that Saturday before Selection Sunday. Yep. And there are about 15 conference championship games that are played that day. And so ESPN has games wall to wall, and they, at halftime and between games, they're going to the studio, and they must have played that highlight, 20 times over the course of the day.
Yeah.
And then the next day, they had Peter on live and everything. So that was an unforgettable moment for me.
Yeah, that's one of those moments that every time you see it gives you chills, or hear it gives you chills. Those are always my favorite sports moments. For me, it's always going to be the last out of 2016 World Series. Like I still get tears when I watch it, just
sure.
because But those stories are always my favorite. Now, the last question I want to ask you before you get out of here might be the toughest question I've asked you since we've been on. Who was the color analyst that you had the most fun with during your career?
Well, that's not tough at all. I mean, first of all, I had fun with a lot of them, but the one that I had the most fun with was Bill Raftery.
Okay.
And it has everything to do with the fact that I've known him forever. And it was interesting. Of course, Bill was at the very top of the food chain. As you know, he does the Final Four for CBS. So he always did games for Big East, for ESPN and CBS. And then when the Big East fell apart and rechristened as a new league, Fox got the TV rights. So since he had been so closely identified with the Big East throughout the history of the league, first as a coach at Seton Hall and then as a broadcaster, he decided he wanted to continue doing Big East games. So he left ESPN, and he now does games for CBS and Fox. And for whatever reason, in his final year at ESPN, they assigned him to work with me for 3 games. And it was a blast. The games were a blast. The night before was a blast. And, I was an ESPN radio sports center anchor for 18 years. And first 14 years was during the show Mike and Mike. So one time Bill was a guest on Mike and Mike, and the format changed over the years, but for a while they would go to a commercial break, and out of the break they would have my sports center, and then Golick and Greenberg would come back on. So Bill was the guest of the next segment. So my sports center aired, and then they came on and they welcomed in Bill Raftery, and Bill had been on hold, he was on the phone, and on hold you hear programming. So he heard me in the sports center. And so they welcomed him in, and he said it was nice to hear my old friend Bob Picozzi. And this is like at 6:20 in the morning or 6:40 in the morning. And he said when Bobby was at Seton Hall, the only time he was ever awake at this hour was when he was just getting in from the night before. And so, which first of all is only partially true. And talk about the pot calling the kettle black when it comes to that. But it was so much fun doing games with Bill. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. I still stay in touch with him all the time. He's been great to me throughout my career. He's helped me in many, many ways. And so getting a chance to do a couple games with him was just an absolute blast.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, Bob, thank you for joining us here on the show today. I will talk with you here in a few seconds, just off camera. But I appreciate everything you have. It's been an absolute honor, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining the Man Hour.
It was my pleasure, man.
All right, Man Hour Nation, welcome back to the show. I am very honored right now to.
And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Michael Buckeyes along with Brandon Combs himself. Brandon, that was a great interview with Mr. Bob over there. And, man, like, some of his stories has got the comment section going a little wild. The first things first was the whole PED scandal. And Bob basically said that he would put an asterisk on their Hall of Fame thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of how
And it's funny because I didn't intend for the conversation to go there. Like, I intended the whole interview to be talking about his days calling games, and then we just kind of like went off on a tangent with baseball there. And you know how I am once you get me talking baseball, I could talk it all day. But he was very honest, and I commend him for that. I love the fact that he was honest. I love the fact that he even came out and said, if you include PEDs, he puts Barry Bonds as the best left fielder of all time.
Yeah.
And if you exclude PEDs, then you give it to another. So, look, I've come out and said, look, these guys belong in the Hall of Fame. Whether you want to make it a separate wing of the Hall of Fame, whether you want to give them their own little, an asterisk on it, I'm fine with whatever you guys decide to do over there at the Hall of Fame. But these players need to be in the Hall of Fame. And then we got on the conversation of Pete Rose. And, people come at me a lot with that. Like I said in the interview, they come at me a lot. And I used to agree with it. But like I said, when one of his teammates, and I don't want to say which teammate, but if you know baseball well enough, you know who number 5 was on the Big Red Machine. So when I had that conversation with him at a baseball dinner in Boston, it was one of those conversations that you're like, yeah, all right. I mean, look, you played with Pete, and if you're saying, the thing that was said to me was, there is one rule in every clubhouse. It's on the door when you walk in. Do not bet on the game.
Right.
And he broke that one rule that you can't break. And so even his own teammates don't believe he belongs in the Hall of Fame. And that's what resonates with me on the Pete Rose thing as far as that. And I think it's a very different situation than what PEDs are. Baseball made a lot of money off of PEDs. Baseball made a lot of money off of the steroids era.
So did the players too.
Yeah, and there's a conversation going on right now between Drew and Tim Leonard on Facebook. It's a great conversation. I mean, they are going back and forth. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying reading the comments. Neither one of them are wrong. I mean, look, I'm not so sure it was illegal, as far as, punishable by law. It definitely wasn't illegal, in the game of baseball. There were no rules against it at the time that it was happening. So I don't even know why that even comes into effect for some of these players, because there was no rule against it. I understand.
It was like frowned upon, right? But saying like, yeah, you can do it, but don't do it openly, right?
Right. Well, Jackie Robinson once stole second base in a game where they were up by 10 runs. That's also looked down upon too, but it's not a rule. So, you know what I mean? It's just stop.
It's the unwritten rules of baseball, right?
Right, but an overwhelming majority say that Big Papi is going to get in next year. Big Papi had a positive test. Barry Bonds did not. The difference between Barry Bonds and Big Papi is not only, obviously Barry Bonds was a very different type of player, but the media really loves Big Papi. They did not like Barry Bonds.
And also on the flip side of that, though, Big Papi has always kind of been big. So, when Barry Bonds came into the league, he was a skinny little twig, right? Yes, he had great bat skills. He had, great hand-eye coordination. He was a great baseball player. But then he literally blew up, right? Like, he had legs coming out of his shoulders, and I think that is the biggest issue. Is the only reason why he hit all those home runs was because he gained so much mass. He got so big. But he was
still a perennial all-star. He was still the steroids do not help you read the difference between a fastball and a breaking ball.
Right.
Steroids do not help you make contact with that fastball or that breaking ball. Steroids do not give you the ability to do the things that Barry Bonds was already having the ability to do.
Right.
Did it add maybe an extra 20 or 30 feet on a home run ball? Sure, but he was still hitting the ball 480 feet. The ball was still going to fly out of the yard regardless. I don't like the argument for guys before it was a rule. Now, I agree with Tim, where Tim says, it's for the guys that after it was made, hey, PEDs are no longer an okay substance in the game. After that, you deserve to be punished, and you deserve to have everything that you have taken away from you. But those guys before that, baseball made billions with a B, like you like to say, off of these guys, and then threw them under the bus when they got their hands caught in the cookie jar. There's a huge difference. And I know we get the argument all the time, and I would love nothing more if we could ever get a baseball writer who is against the steroid era in the Hall of Fame on this show. My God, I'm telling you guys right now, you call your friends, call your neighbors, call your enemies, call whoever you got to do, because if we ever get that interview, there is going to be a war on the Man Hour. So I would love to get that interview.
Well, I've known people that have used steroids in college and high school at the professional level. I have associated with those people. They were in my inner circle, right? Most of the time when athletes use steroids, it is not. So let me rephrase that. When you are out of college, playing at the higher level, the professionals, most of the time they are not using steroids to gain massive amounts of weight. They are not using steroids to, run a 40-yard, like a 4.2 40-yard dash. It's because they're hurting. It's because their legs hurt. It's because they have worked so freaking hard the last 12 years that their body is literally breaking down. The steroids just prolong their career. It helps the recovery. And so, and just like Combs, you have said it on the show many times, if you guys do not believe that Cal Ripken Jr. used steroids, you are out of your freaking mind. There is no way a guy can play damn near 3,000 games and not be hurt. I can't go 3,000 days without waking up with a sore a sore back.
Not just not being hurt, but not being able to take a day off due to the normal aches and pains of a 162 game season, including some playoff games, because the Orioles had an all right team in the mid-90s, so they were going to playoff games. that to me is one of those things where I'm just like, if you don't think that he used steroids, then you're just kidding yourself. You're one of those guys who just wants to keep the sanctity of the game. There are certain guys out there who I believe probably didn't take steroids, but had they might have had longer careers. Nomar Garciaparra. You know how I feel about Nomar Garciaparra. I wrote an article for it a long time ago that caused a lot of controversy. Nomar Garciaparra, to me, could have been the greatest shortstop of all time.
Right.
And he was doing things, and his numbers were trending up every single year. His defensive prowess was unbelievable. Did he make a lot of errors? Yes, but he made a lot of errors on balls that normally guys would not get to. And he was trying to make something happen, but his offensive numbers were on the steady rise throughout his early career, and then he got hurt. And then that's when you saw the dip in the numbers, and that's when you saw that he couldn't get back on track, and he wasn't the same Nomar Garciaparra, when he got traded from the Red Sox to the Cubs, and then from the Cubs to the Dodgers. He was not the same Nomar. Had he been using steroids, which I don't think he was, had he been doing it, I think he might have had a longer career. And
with the Red Sox.
Yeah. It would have been...
Yeah,
it would have been a very long... He would have been there for the World Series in 2004. He would have been a part of that. And it's just... I do believe there were some guys who were playing it straight and narrow, but the guys who weren't, like you... I saw in your comment on YouTube there, A-Rod was overrated. I disagree. A-Rod was very highly coveted. A-Rod was a very talented baseball player. That's the reason why I can't stand A-Rod so much, is because he didn't need to use the steroids. And I guess you could say the same thing about Barry Bonds as a person. Like, he did not need the steroids. He was such a good ball player. And I think that that's what a lot of people have an issue with, is that these guys, the guys that were using, were the guys who were on top of the game. And the little guys who weren't, who were using it and still coming up, were just trying to keep up. So I think that's why they get such a bad rap. But either way, it's a joke to stop these guys from getting into the Hall of Fame.
One person that should have used steroids and not the white snow, John Rocker. Like, that guy could have been amazing if he just would have fought the white snow.
Darryl Strawberry.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, I think they were highly underrated players, but they just found the opposite PED, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, guys, we are going to take a quick little break. On the other side of the break, we are doing a fan favorite brought to you by Mrs. Smith. Ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
So right after the break, guys, we're going to do Ain't Nobody Got Time for That right here on the Men Hour. We'll be right back.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Check out Angel with an A right there. Combs, tell a little bit of people about what Angel with an A is all about.
Yeah, so Angel with an A, it's a memorial motorcycle ride dedicated to Angela Dewey, who lost her life back in 2018. She passed away in her sleep. She had a seizure while she was sleeping. But her sister now is dedicating a scholarship in her name. The motorcycle ride will take place on May 1st, 2021, $25 per rider. Every $25 buys you a card. And top 10 poker hands at the end will win a prize. There are a bunch of prizes on there. We have decided to put a prize on there as well, where we are giving away 3 months of our gold membership, along with a T-shirt as well. So definitely check it out and donate as much as you can. Let them know that you are from the Man Hour. Every $250 donated by Man Hour listeners, Man Hour will donate an additional $25. Right now, I checked with Jesse. We are at $175 right now, donated by Man Hour listeners. So,
wow, that's awesome, guys.
Keep up the good work. Keep donating. Keep doing anything that you can do. Even if you can't donate, just give us a share. Hop on the Facebook page. This little overlay that we have here is also on a Facebook post. Share that Facebook post. See how much we can get over there. Let them know that let them know that they saw it with Man Hour, and we'll create a donation for them as well.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Man Hour. It is a time for a fan favorite, a fan selected, a fan, what's the word I'm looking for? A fan approved, fan submitted. This is all about the fans right here. This is the fan segment of the day.
For you. This one's
Ain't nobody got time for that. So, Combs, kick it off with the first Ain't Nobody Got Time for That of the night.
All right, guys. So with the first Ain't Nobody Got Time for That, we are going to get into a little bit of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has been slammed for diversity training that urged workers to be less white. Coca-Cola employees were urged to be less white as part of the company's alleged diversity training, but the material was yanked offline following a viral whistleblower's post. The Confronting Racism course in question was offered by LinkedIn Education and allegedly utilized by the soft drink titan. In the U.S. and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they are inherently superior because they are white, reads one of the slides, allegedly sent from an internal whistleblower and posted on Twitter by YouTube. Guys, look. Like, we had this conversation yesterday. Just
Brayden,
respect everybody.
Be less white. Be less white first.
And do everything that you've got to do to be nice, no matter what color, what race, what religion, what anything anybody is. Just respect them for who they are and what they're doing. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know the things that they're doing. But when you hear something like this, man, be less white. Like, and then to say it's a course, and the name of the course is Confronting Racism. Like, the definition of racism. Like, you go against everything that your course is supposed to be standing for when you tell people to be less white. You know that you can be racist against white people, too? Like, you know that's a thing, right? Like, that's really a thing.
No, it's not.
Like,
get out of here. No, it's not. Anytime white people bring something up that is controversial, it is racist 100%. And you know exactly where I'm going with that, but I'm going to just skim on over it because, we don't want to be deemed racist here. But first things first, Combs, if that slide said act more black, this would have been headline news all over CNN. We would have had whistleblowers left and right, yada, yada, yada. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Act less white. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Like,
look, and I see Tim and Drew in the comments, and Tim says, "Okay, I'll be back after this topic." Look, I get it. Like, I get you guys are here for the sports talk. You can come back after this topic if you want to, but at the same time, when stuff like this is happening in the world, like when we had the whole George Floyd thing and a couple others that were out there, Breonna Taylor and that type of stuff, that's all we heard on ESPN for a week.
Right.
You know, and that had nothing to do with sports. That had to do with, you know, systemic racism or whatever the case is. This is the same damn thing. This is the same damn thing, but nobody wants to talk about it because it's not associated with you know, the whatever, the narrative. And, you know,
But let's be honest, Combs. Do you know why nobody wants to talk about it?
Nope.
Nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly what it is.
All
man.
right, so let's get back to the sports topics here. The next one I want to touch on, Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Kima Siverand was arrested for street racing. The report reads, Las Vegas Raiders cornerback, who was signed by the team to a futures contract just last month after spending the second half of the 2020 season on the practice squad, was arrested early Saturday after a street racing incident in Houston. Officers stopped 3 of the 5 drivers, and Siverand was one of the 3 drivers arrested. So, according to the Houston Police Department, Siverand was charged with felony evading arrest after he initially stopped for officers, then continued to drive another mile before stopping. The Raiders did not immediately reply to the request for comment. So, the only thing I have to say about this is this kid can kiss his contract goodbye.
100%.
This kid is done. I mean, you just spent the 2020 season on the practice squad. You finally get a contract, a futures contract, and you get this stupid stuff going on.
Yep.
You lost your NFL contract, and you deserve to lose your NFL contract, and you're an idiot.
Well, so first things first is usually, like, I watch a show called Street Outlaws, and I love the show. Yes, it is on a closed course and like camera crews and like all that stuff. But those guys were street racing long before the TV cameras came about. Usually, 9 times out of 10, when you respect police officers and be like, look, you know what? I messed up. My bad. Yes, they'll write you as a speeding ticket or, you know, reckless endangerment or something, but just be like, look, man, I messed up. My bad. They are not going to, you know, like arrest you for felony evading and like eluding. They are not going to arrest. Like you can have a laundry list of like tickets for street racing, but if you just be like, hey, you know what? I messed up. Here's my license and insurance. Give me a speeding ticket, and I'll be on my way. So with that being stupid, as Drew says, us in law enforcement call that stupidity. But on the other side, Combs, a college coach once told me, Mr. Bill Weber himself, linebacking coach, he said, superstar athletes can do something like this and still have a contract. When you are not a big name, a.k.a. a quarterback or a running back or a receiver, anytime you messed up, you can kiss your contract goodbye. There is a reason why many of these contracts are not guaranteed, because you are going to do something stupid with your money. And let's be honest.
Nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Bam.
All right, so this next one here, we touched on a little bit yesterday, but I didn't really know the story, and then I heard more of it today as I was listening to some sports radio this morning. And Seattle Mariners doing damage control with their players after Kevin Mather's comments. So this guy's an idiot. Like, he had to know he was getting fired. But let's get into the story here. The best over the past 2 days to those affected has been, you have every right to be upset. We are very open with our players and urge them to be the same. And if they want to be angry, they should be. Frankly, they should be insulted, DePoto said. But at the same time, they're collectively driven toward what we're trying to do here as a team. Now, for those of you that don't know what was said by CEO Kevin Mather, he was on a conference call, and on this conference call, which he's on a Zoom, if you have ever been on the Zoom, if you look up in the upper left-hand corner of that Zoom, if there's a red little logo that says the letters REC with a circle next to it, it means you're being recorded. And this idiot was being recorded. And in this recording, he says that not only does he start degrading his players who are of foreign descent, he talks about one player who doesn't speak English very well, and he just wish he could speak English better. That guy just did a complete interview in English, which is his second language, and did just fine. So shows he doesn't even know who his players are.
Right.
And then he talks about, so you know how a couple years ago, Chris Bryant was coming up as a rookie, and the Cubs held him down in the minors for an extra 11 days because they get an extra year of service. It's one of those things that's been collective bargained into the collective bargaining agreement, but it's one of those things that you just don't come out and talk about that this is why you're doing it, because otherwise that's how you can get in trouble, and that's how a player can fight you on it. He says in his interview, hey, we brought up a lot of guys last year for the 2020 season, and a lot of them didn't belong there. We held back some of our guys because we want that extra year of control. Just stupid. You're an idiot. You're talking about your players, which you clearly don't even know who your players are. You're talking about how, they don't speak English when they clearly do. You say you're tired of having to have translators. You're tired of paying a translator for your players who can't speak English. That's another thing that he said in this little piece. And it just went on and on. It was a whole lot of stupidity in these comments. So, yeah.
So first things first is I believe there are more, Combs,
like
correct me if I'm wrong, that there are probably more Major League Baseball players that are from, not America than there are American players, right?
Yeah, especially the Dominican Republic.
Right.
And
I don't know the
Japan.
ratio by any means, but yeah, there are tons of Dominican Republic, Japan, just the Asian Pacific area, and in general, and 9 times out of 10, those are your best athletes in Major League Baseball. Yep. So why would you not want them on your team? Don't you want to win? Don't you want to put that hardware on your hand? No.
Yeah,
you don't got time for that. You don't have time to pay that translator $60,000 like a year.
And they've got two prospects that are in the top 10 of all of MLB, the top 100 of all of MLB. Yeah. They've got the number 4 and number 10th ranked prospects. And not only are you talking about them not being able to speak English, but then you're talking about keeping them down and holding them back just because you want the extra year of stupid, stupid.
And also, I did not know that the red button that says REC on that means record. I thought that just means reserve extra cassette just in case. So if your cassette gets full, you can push that button and record another.
Do you know what that actually really means though?
What does it mean?
Nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Boom, baby. That was good.
All right. So the last one here that we are going to get into is Alex Smith talking about his time with the Washington football team. Everybody knows the Alex Smith story. Everybody knows, he's a comeback player of the year. Everybody, felt for him when he stepped back on the field. It's one of those chilling moments that you always get back into. I said I didn't want to watch any of the games because I didn't want to see him take a hit.
Right.
But Alex Smith says his return actually put a wrench into the Washington football team's plans. In this story written by John Keim on ESPN, Washington football team quarterback Alex Smith said his comeback threw a wrench into the team's plans and that he didn't feel wanted by the organization this past summer. Alex Smith said they didn't see it. They didn't want me there, didn't want me to be a part of it, didn't want me to be on the team, the roster, didn't want to give me a chance. Mind you, it was a whole new regime that came in. I'm like the leftovers, and I'm hurt, and I'm this liability. Heck no, they didn't want me there. At that point, as you can imagine, everything I'd been through, I couldn't have cared less about all that. Whether you like it or not, I'm giving this a go at this point, is what he told the team. So, I'm torn here.
First things first, Combs. First things first. That quote that you said, he felt like a liability on the team. You said it yourself. He was a liability. You didn't want to watch it because you were afraid he was going to hurt himself.
Yeah, and that's why I'm torn, because I can understand them not wanting to have him take the field. I can understand them saying, hey, look, we've got this guy who almost died, probably shouldn't be back on the field. We've got two quarterbacks who we don't know what we have in these quarterbacks. And we're trying, but we're trying to decide all this. And now we have the I guess the distraction of an Alex Smith, and we don't want that on our team. I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, how do you not want that? I mean, with all the negative publicity around your team, how could you not want the good publicity and the good feel story of Alex Smith starting for your football team? I don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't know which way to go on this one. I don't know which way to lean. I think I'm kind of on the fence with both. I think I understand both sides of the fence.
Yeah. I understand both sides of the fence 100% like as well, because I sat right here on the Man Hour in this very spot, in this very garage, in this very corner, and said that if Alex Smith starts for the Washington football team, they are a playoff-bound team. And guess what, guys? They were a playoff-bound team, and now they are what they were 8-8, or were they 7-9? They were 7-9, right?
7-9, yeah.
Right.
They won the division at 7-9.
So a 7-9 team is getting like a 17th overall pick because Alex Smith played and led them to the playoffs. Do you guys understand that? Do you understand that common sense there?
No, they were 6-9-1.
Oh, they were 6-9-1. So even worse. If they wouldn't have won the division, they would have probably had a top 10 pick, right? They would have been right where the Cowboys are at. So yes, that is only 7 picks, but that could be a franchise changing pick. You could be putting Mac Jones at a quarterback there, or you could be drafting a offensive tackle that could be retiring at the age of 24.
But I said, if you're Daniel Snyder and you've had all this negative stuff around you, you obviously probably want this story to be a feel-good story. Now, if he comes out in the first game, he gets sacked, and his leg ends up, freaking twisted around in whatever, then it might not be such a feel-good story. He might get hung for putting him in there. But, I think for me, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not sure who's at fault here. But either way, I do know one thing. And do you know what that one thing is?
What is that one thing? Cool.
Nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
All right, so
Boom,
Drew
baby.
says, Combs, you just dated yours. How did I date myself?
Well, he does turn 40 in about a month, so it's all downhill now.
Just a little over a month. You know what, though? Shout out to Michelle, who got me a PS5 for my birthday. Look, I might be turning 40, but I'm still a kid at heart, man. I love my video games.
Fortnite, baby.
So
let's do it.
So shout out to Michelle. I'm gonna be playing Fortnite in style on the PS5.
I hope they forget your power cord.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out
So,
there. But
Drew,
go
hit
ahead
me
and
up in the
pop up.
comments. Tell me why I dated myself. I can't remember. I don't know what I said that dated myself.
However, I would like you to pop up that comment from Mrs. Smith over there on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/manhour, and says, do you think it is because they still have pure love for the game and the American players love the endorsement money? That is flashing back to how there are more foreign players in the Major League Baseball than actual American players. I just think that they don't have anything else better to do. I mean, this is not trying to sound derogatory whatsoever, but I work with a guy from the Dominican Republic, and they said that is all those kids do all day, every day. They wake up at 6 a.m. once the sun comes up, and they're throwing the ball against the wall all day from sun up until sundown. They play baseball all day, every day.
I don't think it's that. I think it's the fact that not that they don't have anything else to do, but it's their way out. of the
Right.
situation that they're
Yeah.
in. Some of these places, like you look at not so much, well, the Dominican Republic, but you look at other places too, like Cuba, where these players actually have to defect from and don't get to go back to. You look at Japan and stuff like that, where these guys are coming out of the Japanese leagues. These guys, this is their way to make millions and millions of dollars, something that they never thought that they would see. Their families haven't seen. They come from a poor environment over there in the Dominican Republic and in Cuba, and they make something of themselves for their families.
Right.
And so, yes, I think it's because they have a pure love of the game for sure. But I don't think it's because the American players love the endorsement money. I think it's because MLB doesn't do a good job of endorsing its players. I think that the reason why the American players are starting to dwindle is because of the sheer love of the NFL, the sheer love of the NBA, and the fact that these seasons are shorter and you can make a lot of money doing them. Plus, the endorsement money is there as well. But I think that that's what it is. I mean, when you look at guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, and even Tom Brady, which a lot of people don't know, who had a chance to play baseball instead of football, they chose football. And they chose football because, not just because, obviously they could make money off of it, but it's an easier path and it's easier money. And you don't play 162 games. It's not a grueling season. You play 16 games a season. You play 1 day a week as opposed to 6 to 7 days a week.
Right.
So I think that has a lot to do with why the American game in baseball, why the love of it is doing. And the biggest reason why it's gone is because of how poorly a job MLB does of promoting their stars and promoting their American stars. Mike Trout could absolutely be a name out there that is promoting the youth of America to get back into baseball. And it's just not there. Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of kids. I coached a kid up in Vermont, and his name is Chase Lund. The kid, I'm telling you right now, he's still in high school, but you're going to know this kid's name because this kid is a phenomenal athlete. So whether he decides to play baseball, which is his biggest love, he loves the game of baseball, or if he plays basketball, or if he plays football, or if he plays soccer, you're going to know this kid's name because he could probably go pro in all of them. And so there are kids that love the game of baseball out there. It's just a matter of having, you've got to want to play it, and you've got to want, you've got to have somebody to look up to. And baseball does a horrible job at that.
So a couple things that I want to clarify for you, and you didn't misspeak or anything, but the football path is not an easier path. You still have to work your ass off to get there, but once you're there, you are there, right? Once you get drafted to the major leagues, you have to go through the minor league system, the AAA, AA, single A, you don't make it till 5, 10, 7 years after you quote made it, right? And so that's what I think Combs means by a easier path. Once you are out of college, either you make it to the NFL or you don't. There's very rare occasions where you make it to the practice squad for I think you can be on the practice squad for up to 2 years tops. So really you can only play in the quote minor league system for the NFL for 2 years before either you make it or you don't. So so that is what I think you mean by a easier path. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think that
it's easier to make money in the NFL than it is in the MLB. I mean, let's just face it. Like you said, in Major League Baseball, you could be in the minor leagues for 5, 6 years before you come up. And
as a practice squad player in the NFL, you are making $180,000 a year for 17 weeks of work.
You're not getting that in a Major League Baseball.
No,
I mean,
you're getting
50,
maybe
a year.
Yeah, tops, right?
If that, yeah.
mean, like, granted, yes, that is a good paying job, like 8 to 5 job, but you are not working 8 to 5. You are working, 300 days a year. Like, let's be honest. Yeah.
I agree. And Tim says, can we play this video anytime Wyatt brings up the Packers for no reason, asking for a fan? I think he wants to play that. Ain't nobody got time for that every time Wyatt.
We can work that in. We need to tweak the audio of like a tad, but we can definitely we'll work that in for you, Tim. So speaking of Packers
awesome.
here, let's talk a little bit about the NFC North, Combs. You are a Bears fan, and it seems like every free agent player or player looking for a trade or been released has been linked to the Chicago Bears one way or the other. But they have not made any moves whatsoever. They have not come out and said publicly, yeah, we made an offer for Carson Wentz. Yeah, we made an offer for Aaron Jones. Yeah, we made an offer for Deshaun Watson. You haven't had earned any of that. You as a Bears fan
tagged their wide receiver.
Okay, they made one move. They said, "Hey, we're going to give you a 1 year, kind of prove it deal for us, man." Why haven't the Bears made any moves, Combs?
Because they're the Bears, man. Like, I really, this is what drives me nuts about you guys, is because you guys make me come on here and tell the truth, which is the Bears are a poorly run organization. They just are. Look,
Apply for the job.
Dude, look, if I could have that job, I'm telling you right now, the Bears would be a winning franchise. I'm just telling. Look,
Would you have picked up Carson Wentz?
I would not have picked up Carson Wentz, but I guarantee you that I wouldn't have had to, because I would have drafted Deshaun Watson.
No, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, I would have, in a heartbeat. But from Virginia McCaskey down, man, Virginia McCaskey, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, those three names right there, those are all problems in this organization. Virginia McCaskey is an old biddy who is just an old racist biddy at that. And then you've got Ryan Pace, who is just her yes man and doesn't, if she says, hey, look, you can go get a quarterback you need, just make sure he's a white quarterback, he'll do that. And then you got Matt Nagy, who is supposed to be this genius who is coming out, and I don't know, I mean, maybe he is a good coach, and he's just not getting the right pieces behind him, because Matt Nagy Ryan Pace can't draft to save his life on the offensive side of the ball anyway. So I don't that's a huge problem there for the Bears. I'm not so sure that big names even want to come to Chicago.
Of course not, because Chicago sucks. It snows,
well,
it rains, winds blow all the time. It's horrible.
Yeah,
there.
they talked about Deshaun Watson's no trade clause. He waived his no trade clause to the Jets, to Miami, and he waived his no trade clause to the Carolina Panthers. So
not Chicago though, and not Dallas. That's kind of weird to me, but okay.
Yeah, and I just I don't know. I don't know why the Bears haven't made moves. I don't know, what's going on. What's next for? I mean, to me, the smart move and the money move is on Sam Darnold. They end up with Sam Darnold and probably draft Mac Jones. I think that they do both.
Why would you do both though? Because Sam Darnold is in his third or fourth year, right? So he is relatively young still.
Yeah.
But still, he has a lot of room to grow still. Adam Gase has held back his growth, those last couple years there. 100%.
Because I think you have to. I think you've shown, especially with Mitch Trubisky, that you have to have somebody there that's ready to take over in case either A, he's not the guy, or B, well, Nick Foles can't be the guy though. Nick Foles can come in a pinch and deliver a game-winning drive for you at the end of a game, but he can't be a starting quarterback. Once he's named the starting quarterback, he's just a different guy for some reason. If you go out and you get Sam Darnold, I believe Nick Foles would be a part of that trade. And then you go out and you draft Mac Jones, you say, hey, look, Darnold, you're our guy. Mac Jones still needs another year or two to sit underneath you. If you're doing well, we'll trade Mac Jones, no problem. But if you are doing well, and you are the quarterback we think you're going to be, then we'll stick with you.
So first things first is you are basically, so I am Sam Darnold. You are the general manager for the Chicago Bears. You want me to come to Chicago to, quote, teach this guy a first-round draft pick to be basically
Your job isn't
replace
to teach
me.
him. Your job is to do the same thing in the quarterback room. I expect a leader of my team to do anyway, which is help his teammates come along.
Exactly.
But what
do we
I
see in
expect
Philly,
you to do, I expect my coaching staff to make Mac Jones ready to take over for you in case you falter. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, hey, look, I think that you're worth it. We traded for you. I think that you're a great quarterback. I think you've got the tools to do everything. You just got to go out there and show me that you do. And once you go out there and show me that you do, you're my guy. I'll give you every piece that you need to win. But if you go out there...
You are putting doubt into my mind, Combs.
Why am I putting doubt in your mind? Then you can't handle the NFL. If I can't be honest with you, you can't handle the NFL.
Exactly. Look at the situation that I was in New York. I
you
was
were in
drafted
a horrible
to be
situation in New York.
Yeah. So my confidence, my ego, my swag has been shot down, broken
but
down.
I'm building up
I need
your
to come
ego.
to a new place, and
I'm
you
telling
need to build
you, you're
me up.
the guy. I'm telling you, you're the guy. How can your ego not be boosted?
You
I
just said
traded 3 draft picks for you. I traded my backup quarterback. I traded everything I could. I put all my chips into you. So yes, I'm
what
bringing
you just
on.
said
You're
there-
my guy, and I'm drafting a guy. To back
Replay
you
back
up.
that
What's the
tape.
problem?
Replay back that tape. This is what you said. You said you are my guy if you do this, this, and this, and this. But we are going to draft a quarterback
Yes.
just in case.
Of course, you have
Like,
to prove
no.
to me that you're the guy. Look at what we just had him in Trubisky. I thought he was the guy
Playoff
too.
quarterback.
Look at what you.
Quarterback twice.
You need to put a hat back on because I think that those light rays are sinking into that scalp of yours and affecting what you're saying here. This
Are you saying that I'm wrong?
Yes, because
Shut your mouth.
if I can't be
I'm always
honest with you, what are we married now?
We should be.
I feel like Jesus Christ. I feel like if I can't be honest with my quarterback and say, "Hey, look, I think you're the guy. I think you are worth it. I think you got a raw deal in New York. I think that you're going to come here, and I think you're going to set the world on fire. I think we're going to win a Super Bowl or 2 with you."
So why waste
I'm
a
gonna give you all
first-round
the
draft
pieces
pick on
to
a
succeed.
quarterback? Why not build around me? Why not give me some offensive line to protect my
is there
ass?
a difference? So if I draft Mac Jones, or if I don't draft Mac Jones in the first round, but I draft Kyle Trask in the 3rd round, is that a problem?
No, it is not, because when you draft when you draft a player first round, it is like an unwritten rule, right? That
There is
that,
only
that, like,
one
they are
quarterback in
slated
this
to be-
draft that is ready to play in the NFL next year.
And
that's
that's why
Trevor
most
Lawrence.
of these quarterbacks in this draft are going to be bust because they're going to be drafted to teams that are ready for them to play right now.
I disagree. I mean, if the Falcons go ahead and they take, Zach Wilson, if the Jets don't, get stupid and take Zach Wilson at 2, if the Falcons get Zach Wilson, he gets to sit for a year or 2 under Matty Ice. Like, I mean,
I think if the Falcons draft a quarterback fourth, their 4th overall pick, right, or 3rd, no, they're 4th. If they draft a quarterback 4th overall, Matt Ryan's out of there. I think they are moving on from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Yes, I know they take some type of cap hit, but you can somehow offset that somehow some way that there are people that get paid a lot more money than like me to figure that out. But Matt Ryan does not want to do what Alex Smith did for Patrick Mahomes. Like I don't think he wants to do that.
for Tip, what do you think it's going to take to get Sam Darnold? I mean, you just saw, do you think Sam Darnold's worth more than a Carson Wentz? Because I think that he's worth about the same, to be honest with you. So if I'm the Bears, I'm giving you a conditional 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick. That's what I'm giving you. That's all you get, and you're probably getting, because I need to stay under the cap. I'm probably giving you,
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
Yeah,
in this
that's what I was thinking.
in this trade
A
as well.
3rd round
So
pick and Nick Foles for Sam Darnold.
You're getting more than what they got for Carson Wentz. Like I don't understand what the question is here. The Bears have plenty to give up. I said for Deshaun Watson, I would give you my first this year, my first next year, my first in 2 years, plus a 2nd, plus a 3rd, and Khalil Mack. The Bears have plenty to give away as far as NFL-ready talent, for sure, especially on the defensive side of the ball where they are very deep. So the Bears have plenty to give up, especially for a Sam Darnold. They got more than enough to give up for a Sam Darnold.
but I don't. For some reason, so the Jets have come out and said that they are going to, effectively look through the quarterbacks like in this draft for a possible replacement for Sam Darnold, before they move from Sam Darnold. So if I'm Sam Darnold, like right now, I'm kind of checked out of like New York, anyways. Like they are only keeping me just because there's nobody better. Like
for sure.
And
so
Drew
Drew says he considers the Bears to be an upgrade from the Jets. I think it's a lateral move, to be honest with you. With the way that the Bears organization is right now, yes, does he have more pieces in Chicago? Sure. He's got a better running back in Chicago. He's got, now that they retained Allen Robinson, they got Allen Robinson. They've got Darnell Mooney. He's got better wide receivers than he had in the Jets. He's got a way better defense than he had with the Jets. So, yes, maybe it is a slight. But I think as far as being a quarterback coming to this organization, I think it's a lateral move. I think you're back into a bad situation. I love my Bears. I really do. Hell, I'm wearing the sweatshirt tonight. I really do love the Bears, but they are not equipped to take on a reclamation project. They need a quarterback to come in that knows how to win in the NFL, which is Deshaun Watson. They need a quarterback that is ready to take the reins. They can't take on a reclamation project. They've already shown that they can't build talent. They showed that with Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky, sure, he's got the intangibles, but they just couldn't make him into the quarterback that they thought that they were drafting at number 2 over Deshaun Watson, which still is incredibly stupid to me.
So, Combs, I think the Bears, talent-wise, is probably a top 10 team in the
NFL. Go back to Miami.
So I think that the Bears, talent-wise, is probably top 10 in the NFL, 100%. I think if Deshaun Watson were to go to Chicago, which he clearly isn't, because he said it was going to be New York, Miami, and you said Carolina. But let's say he was going to go to Chicago. That situation, that front office situation, is no different in Houston than it is Chicago. I think the Chicago issue is the front office, and like you've been saying it over and over, it is the front office. And the only way to do that is to basically suck for the next 5 or 6 years. Suck 5 or 6 years, and maybe they'll get some new.
They're going to suck for the next 5 or 6 years. They're going to have to completely rebuild another defense. They wasted this incredible defense that they have with Khalil Mack. They wasted everything about this team. They had talent. They had everything that they just didn't have the right quarterback. They didn't have the right head coach. They don't have a very good GM. They just don't. Did
I see a comment about Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, that was Penelope. She said that the
Bears need Lamar Jackson.
The Bears need Lamar Jackson.
The Bears do not need another trash quarterback. No way, no how. The Bears do not need a bottom half quarterback in their team right now. They already had that, right? I mean, even though Mr. Trubisky's probably, I don't know.
You don't
16,
agree
17.
that the Tip? Come on. You want to talk
Tip
about
says,
how do you want to talk about somebody sipping on freaking cough syrup when you say you don't think that the Bears have a better defense than the Jets? You don't think that they have more talent on defense than the Jets with Khalil Mack, with Roquan Smith, with let's see here. I mean, I could keep going on and on with names. Wait, what are you talking about? The Bears are definitely more talented than the Jets. They have stop.
The Jets do have a good defense, but they're not better than the Bears. They're not better than the Rams. They're not better than the Cowboys.
The thing, that's why I say it's a lateral move, though, Tip. If you stop sipping on cough syrup and you actually listen to my take, they are a lateral move when it comes to a quarterback because they are in the same situation as the Jets were. Horrible coaching staff, horrible front office, horrible owner.
So
it's the same situation.
Speaking of lateral moves here, Combs, Aaron Jones, Green Bay Packers running back, says there is mutual interest between Miami Dolphins and Aaron Jones. Would that be a lateral move for Aaron Jones to go down to Miami?
Yes, because I think that you are still going to another team that maybe gets to a AFC Championship game, but then loses.
No,
Which
they
is
are
what you're
Tip's
gonna
team.
get
They're
in-
going 3-13.
Yeah. No, they're a good young up and coming team, especially if they end up with Deshaun Watson. I don't think it's an upgrade. I mean, you're definitely downgrading a quarterback. And I don't think that they're going to go to the Super Bowl anytime soon. Do you? I mean, do you think that they're going to be able to get over top and win an AFC anytime soon?
So there are times in every NFL season, you look at the past, 6-7 years, there's a team that comes out and surprises you, right? And then they're right back down where they were the year before. The New York Jets with Mark Sanchez those couple years. The Bucks this year, they kind of came out of nowhere. Then they'll go back down to reality in a couple years, a lot as well. The Miami Dolphins, they kind of snuck up on some people. They are, quote, ahead of schedule on the rebuilding process, and I think that has kind of tipped their egos a little bit. They're walking around with some swagger now, and they're like, hey, we are pretty damn good. You guys don't even have a quarterback. Tua is not going to be an NFL quarterback. No way, no how. Ryan Fitzpatrick's like 39 years old. I think he's a free agent, and you guys don't even know. Meaning, like, you guys are messing with the psyche of
What
the
if they
team
get
right now
Deshaun?
with the Deshaun Watson. No, I don't think with Deshaun Watson they're even a playoff bound team. They're probably 7-9, 8-8 because. So the only way that the Miami Dolphins sneak into the playoffs is going to be that 7th seed, and they have to be that 7th seed because the AFC is so freaking loaded
With
right now.
Deshaun Watson on the Miami Dolphins, they challenge Buffalo for the AFC East title.
Deshaun Watson gives you 6 wins a season. Him alone, you can put down 6-10. Now you add some pieces and add pieces here or there. Now, if the Miami Dolphins add Aaron Jones and some wide receiver help in the draft, I don't like their wide receiving core whatsoever.
Well, they're going to get
I think
wide
they are-
receiver help.
Right.
They've got 2 first-round draft picks. So whether or not they have to trade the number 3 to get Deshaun Watson, I don't believe they'll have to trade their later round pick, which I believe is a 22.
That sounds about right.
So if you can still get a wide receiver at 22, which you can, I think that I don't know.
They are a 7th seed with Deshaun Watson and Aaron Jones.
I think they're they might be a 7th seed, but that's just because Buffalo finishes at
Right.
12-4 and they finish at 11-5, so they're stuck being a wild card team. I think it makes them a competitor in the AFC East, and I think it makes them a formidable opponent and not an easy out in the AFC playoffs. Do I think that
but
they
they're
make
still
them
gonna
better
be-
than the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills just yet? No.
Cleveland
do I think
Browns
it-
even shit.
I think it puts them right there with Cleveland, to be honest with you. I think it puts them on that level with the Cleveland Browns, even though I love Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the league right now.
You are correct.
They need to show me. I love what they're doing down in Miami. Don't get me wrong. I really do. I love the coaching staff.
with them right now is they are in a loaded AFC. Combs, right now, you could probably name off 10 AFC teams that could legitimately go to the playoffs next year and make some noise. Just off the top of your head, not counting Miami. You can do it. Like, AFC is freaking loaded. So
It is.
the Miami Dolphins have to be freaking loaded, and they aren't going to do that. Like, I don't think they are built to win like
They weren't
that.
loaded this year, and they made noise. I mean,
Because
I
of
think
Ryan
that they made a
Fitzpatrick,
mistake
let's be
going
honest.
back and forth between Tua and Fitzpatrick.
You
If
are
they would have
correct
kept
there.
Fitzpatrick in there, I think they would have been in the playoffs. I think they would have made noise in the playoffs. But I don't know. I don't think, Tip's going crazy over here. Did you not read my post? With Deshaun Watson and Aaron Jones both, we go to the Super Bowl.
No, you don't.
I disagree.
You do not
because
get- you
you're
do
not
not get
better
past
than the
the
Kansas
Buffalo?
City Chiefs.
Nope.
You're close, but you're not better than the Buffalo Bills.
You're not better than the Chargers. How about that?
Oh, they're better than the Chargers. They're better than the Chargers now.
You're not better than the Steelers.
They're better than the Steelers.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They're not
Are they
better
better?
than
Are they
Ravens.
better than Baltimore?
No.
Yeah, so I'm with you there.
As much as I bash Lamar Jackson, he does have another year
I
in the
think
league
Deshaun
with a quarterback
Watson-
coach.
I think Deshaun Watson and Aaron Jones makes them a top 5 or 6 team in the AFC, though. I really do.
But you are
they
still
weren't
not
far off
winning a
this
first
year.
round
Now
playoff
you're
game.
adding a top 5 quarterback, and you're adding a very good running back. Like I think that pushes you up to a top 5 or 6 team in the AFC. Do I think you're going to the Super Bowl? No, because I still think that Kansas City is going to. Kansas City is a team to beat. You have to beat them to get. And you're not walking into Arrowhead and beating Kansas City, especially with fans in the stands.
Yeah, especially next year.
in
Like
January.
next year, home crowds are going to be freaking crazy. Like let's be honest. Man.
Yeah. And
Soldier
look,
Field's gonna be off
Patty
the hook,
Mahomes is Patty
Arrowhead.
Mahomes.
Sheesh.
Patty Mahomes is still one of those quarterbacks that in the top 5 that I have ahead of Deshaun Watson. He does special things, and you're not better than those guys. So no, I don't believe that adding both of those makes you automatically in the Super Bowl. Can you do it? Sure, because anything can happen.
Any given Sunday. That's why NFL is awesome.
You go week 10 and Patty Mahomes tears an ACL. Like anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like people get injured, teams start, having bad seasons, this and that. Anything can happen, but I
Look
don't.
at the Steelers.
On
They were
paper,
11-0
no, you're
and
not
they lost the last 5 or whatever.
Yeah. So you're not on paper. You would not be the favorite in the AFC.
No,
not at all.
The only way I could legitimately put you guys as contenders is if Tom Brady went to Miami, brought down Gronk, like we were saying earlier, because Gronk wants to go to Miami.
I think Gronk goes to Miami anyway. I think he plays the season without Tom Brady.
And then you guys sign Aaron Jones, and then you bring Juju Smith down there. That's the only way I would give you guys, because let's be honest, just even with just Tom Brady and Gronk with that team orchestrated the way they are, I don't think they win a playoff game. And yes, that is me voting against Tom Brady, the GOAT, right? But I just don't think that happens.
Yeah.
So before we go, Combs,
it's a tough one.
Before we go, last little, we have 5 minutes left or so here. Notre Dame has said they do not want any part of the NCAA football game 2022 if the players do not get compensated for their likeness and usage of the game. Are you on board with Notre Dame jumping out?
What's going on, Wyatt? No, because of the reason why they're jumping out of it. They are backing the players and saying that if the players aren't going to get paid for their likeness, we're not going to be in the game. And they want a ruling on it, and they want it to happen before they make their decision on whether or not they're going to be in the game, which needs to happen soon if they're going to be able to release the game when they want to. I have no problem with Notre Dame.
I do believe.
Yeah, I have no problem with Notre Dame pulling this, and the players absolutely should get paid for their likeness. Now, the way that they combat that is the NCAA could just say, hey, look, we're still looking at this. We're still thinking about it. And the way college football can combat that is the build your own team. Now, you can build your own team, create your own helmets, do all the things you want to do. Voila, Notre Dame's in your game.
Voila, there's ways around everything. And let's be flat out honest. Notre Dame, you can say you can care about the players all you want. You can say that.
It's a great PR move, man.
It is a
really
great PR.
is.
That's exactly where I was going. Notre Dame is now front page news. We haven't heard from them until they got slacked in the college football playoff game, and now
why
all of
you
a
gotta do that to
sudden
me?
they are front page news again because of this PR stunt. Let's be flat out honest. I mean, every college can come out and say that, but since Notre Dame was the first, everybody else
was
is
with
going to
you
be following
until you had to
suit,
throw that
right?
little pot shot in there.
It wasn't a pot shot. What was the final score?
It was a pot shot.
To that game.
Look, they got beat up pretty good by Alabama.
They got shellacked, Combs. Let's
It was
be honest.
Alabama.
Did they get shellacked that game? Yes or no?
Did Alabama win the?
We don't really care what you think, Combs. At Sass Hour, we're going to mend the ad hour tonight. Guys, have a great night. Catch you guys tomorrow. YouTube.com/Man Hour, 8 p.m. East Coast time. Wyatt the Hair Williams will be back. Combs, Send us off the right way, man.
Man Hour Nation. Rise up.
Wrong button.
Ha!